Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
And I'm Frederick Philip Von Weiss, and you are consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation for the people behind the technology that love what they do
and do web good.
Pow! Explosion.
Perfect.
Hey, if quickly, if you guys like the show, love the show, if you want to give us a shout out on the old YouTubes, subscribe, like, give us money or whatever candy. Brian loves candy.
I love candy. Yeah,
he loves candy. Or go to subscribe on iTunes for us and give us a review. That'd be super cool. Tell us how pretty we are. And Brian's beautiful hair, and we would love that and really appreciate it. That being said, without any further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our guest. Today we have professional fisherman and digital art director, Art Hill. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us.
Definitely.
So you're joining us today from your yacht in the Mediterranean. Is that correct when I'm looking at this?
That's correct. Actually, no, this is a guest bedroom. This is the Airbnb suite. I call it the captain's quarters, but my wife's the interior designer, so she made it all nautical themed for me, and it fits.
So your yacht is an Airbnb? That's impressive.
Exactly.
Wow.
Look it up. Cash only.
Only $5,000 a night.
Exactly.
That's cool. So you're, as I said, professional fisherman. You're really into the fishing. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's something I grew up doing back in South Carolina. And once I moved to Florida, you know, the bug kind of really took over. And, you know, I got linked up with the local Captain Richard Hartman, and joined his fishing team. And it's been crazy ever since, man. Crazy.
So you go deep sea fishing or
yes.
On boat?
Yeah, I have my own boat. It's an 18-foot Mariah, so it's a runabout, you know, and that'll be for my friends and family when we go out to the sandbar and hang out on the weekends. But, you know, when I go offshore with Captain Richard, we take his 29-foot CV out and we do work, man.
Oh, nice.
It's a good time.
So what do you come home with, like, on a night like that? Like, what's you know, you go out all day. What do you come home with? How many fish? What do you got?
Well, we normally go out and we leave around 7 in the morning, and we come back probably around 3 or 4, and we'll have anywhere from 50 to 100, you know, red snapper, vermilion snapper, you know, grouper, Key West snapper, just different kind of an array of offshore fish, you know.
Oh, I found my new best friend.
That's awesome. What do you do with all that fish?
You know, we eat it, you know, fillet it up and eat it, divide it up by the crew, or if it's an actual charter, you know, we'll, you know, give it all to those guys. And, you know, once we catch like 100 or whatever, an excess amount, we'll give it to like the church or neighbors, friends, coworkers, you know, anybody that knows me or, you know, my family or Captain Richard himself, they all know that they can get fish dipped, you know. The fresher the better. So,
oh yeah,
that's what we do.
Dang, dude, that's so awesome. That sounds like one, a really good time, and two, good eats.
It really is. It really is. I call it rod to table.
Rod to table. I love that. That's awesome. Hashtag rod to table.
Rod to table. Hey, speaking of the ocean, there was a pretty big event here in Florida, and I just wanted to touch on it because it's a big deal. This Irma came here, and you know, there's some other ones in the Gulf that might or might not, looking like they might not show up, but this thing was nuts. Do you mind talking a little bit about that, and maybe we could all share our experiences a little bit?
No, not at all, man. I mean, when we first heard the storm, you know, I was like, okay, it's coming this way. It's a pretty big storm, so we'll kind of keep our eye on it, you know. And as it got closer and it went into like Barbuda and just absolutely annihilated that place, and it kept going, I was like, all right, you know, honey, whether it goes East Coast, West Coast, you know, we really need to take this one seriously. You know, one, we rarely get storms on the West Coast. So, you know, being a fisherman, you know, we're always in tune to the weather patterns and pressure systems and, you know, and kind of keeping up on what's going on. But this one, it definitely had too much of a flair to it, so to speak. So once it started to get really close, I told my wife, I'm like, look, man, you know, win, lose, or draw, we're going to get out of here because we got a baby now. We can't be hanging out, and either way, it's going to come and hit one coast, and it's so big, we're still going to feel the effects. So having the chance of being without power and having a kid in a Florida house that's 100 degrees, that's not something that I'm willing to do. Yeah. Right? No. So I was like, let's go to Atlanta, wait it out, cross our fingers, and hope for the best.
Yeah, what's funny is it actually, I know people in Atlanta, and we have an office in Atlanta, and power went out there too. And I mean, the amazing thing about this storm, which I don't know how many people outside of this region, don't realize, is that it affected so much. I mean, it went from the islands to Cuba to Puerto Rico to both coasts of Florida. Miami flooded. I mean,
it was as big as the state.
Yeah. So, and people are still without power. A family of mine just got power back today.
Yeah. I just got my power yesterday at 1 o'clock. So I mean, we were staying with friends even after we came back from Atlanta. Came back, surveyed the damage. Our neighborhood was pretty much destroyed. We got lucky at our house. We only lost the back fence, but the houses from my house into the water all the way down, it was just pure chaos. Like, just
debris,
ridiculous. Debris, knocking, trees falling all the way through houses, crushing
roof
from porches, roofs. Yeah. I mean, just like, and you got mansions on the water that have an oak tree, blocking their front door. Like, it's ridiculous. So, Irma definitely packed a punch, man. And, whether or not we got a direct hit, or just we actually got off pretty easy compared to a lot of other places like the Keys. But,
oh my God,
she still did a lot of damage for sure.
It was definitely one of those things. If maybe if I was 20 years old and didn't have responsibilities, I would hang out and party and think it was fun. But just like you said, like if you have a family, I have a 2-year-old, so we were really kind of going back and forth whether we should just bail and get the fuck out of here, or if we were going to hang out or go to a shelter. And we ended up going for a shelter for 2 nights, which was with 1,500 people, it was difficult, but we made it through, and we even got our power back relatively quickly.
That's great.
We were one of the lucky ones, thankfully. But I spoke to one of my buddies today that still doesn't have power. It's really interesting, the dichotomy of that.
Yeah, 4 to 5 million people in Florida. Well, not people, but buildings, residents, whatever you want to call them, were without power. Yeah, we actually packed our area had a mandatory evacuation, and we threw up the metal shutters and packed up and went to higher ground basically. And luckily, Pinellas County, St. Pete, where I live, was relatively unscathed. Like it got weakened pretty heavily by the time it reached us. And we had a big pile of debris out front now from things in the backyard, big branch that fell. And my parents actually got hit worse. They're in Northport, and a tree fell on their shed, just like demolished half of the shed. And so I'm lucky we all came out relatively unscathed and not too many people lost their lives. So.
Yeah, it could have been. It's cliche to say, but it's very relevant. It could have been a lot worse, and I think we definitely dodged a bullet. Especially in this area, we did okay.
For sure. I want to hear a little bit more about the shelter experience, because I mean, to be in a shelter with that many people, how long were you there?
We were there for 2 nights. So we went on I believe it was a Saturday night, because we thought that the tropical storm winds was going to start coming in and we were going to lose power any moment. So we went to the shelter, we brought our dogs, and also you needed to get a spot because this thing was filling up super fast, and it's a good thing we did. So we got there, and luckily a lot of our neighbors have children, and we all kind of bundled together, and the kids played, and they were, watching Thomas the Train on my phone, and my son Luther, he was totally into it, and he was having a good time. And we were really worried that he was going to want to run off and just check out the whole place. But luckily that didn't happen either. So, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We're very lucky that we have that. But, sleeping on the ground for 2 nights wasn't optimal, right? It definitely wasn't horrible, but it was probably the waiting line to the waiting line to the room for the waiting line to hell. Like that, that was it. It was pretty bad. But, you know, and also, too, we were lucky because FEMA supplied 3 meals a day. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's
we
cool.
brought our own food, but they also served food. You know, people
wow.
volunteered, and it was relatively clean. People were very, very respectful of each other. And it was a, you know, for besides some pretty odd conversations here and there that you didn't want to listen to, it was pretty good.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's cool, man.
And one thing I'd like to point out is Irma. Like, doesn't Irma just sound like the really great grandma who's baking
Right.
cookies? And
Right.
Sure fucking wasn't.
Grandma was mad.
Yeah. Remember, it came down with a smackdown. She brought a belt. Pow!
She's the one you were scared of, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
let's go out of the storm. Let's go a little bit into the topics of the day. If you don't mind, Art, let's get to know you a little bit. I have the pleasure of knowing you. We worked together briefly at a company, and we became friends. And you know, I'd like to know about what you were doing. You are a digital art director, and I'd love to know about how you got your start and what you do now and what's your day to day. You know, and a lot of people that we talk to, and maybe you fall into this too, I would say, I don't know, Brian, what's the percentage?
I feel like 96.7%.
Okay, 96.7%. I'll go with Brian. Always fall into, they got into what we do because they were making flyers for their band. Any kind of instrumental aspirations did you go from like the music scene into design?
Well, it's funny you say that. So I didn't necessarily play in the design, but I did get my start in the music industry. So my first
98%.
My first job out of college was for the world's first rock and roll theme park. It's called Hard Rock Park. It was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And, you know, they came to Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand area. They were breaking ground at this cool new hip thing. And they came and presented at our college where I was in school as a web designer and graphic designer. And they wanted interns, you know, to kind of help build this park and help see this thing through. And it was like an unpaid internship. And, you know, they met me, the teacher recommended me, and they saw my work. And then they saw that I had website as well. And they're like, oh, you do web? I'm like, sure. So they were so impressed by that, they actually made it a paid internship right off the bat. And the rest is history, man. It went from me being part of probably about 15 to 20 project team and the core executive team with no buildings above ground, just like big clay open lot, to fully staffed 3,000 person theme park where we were doing crazy numbers. And it was great to see that transition from nothing to a full blown like theme park rides, music. And then of course being the Hard Rock brand, you had all the celebrities that came through, the Eagles, the Moody Blues, Kid Rock, all those big legendary names, Run DMC. It was awesome to have that as my first job coming out of college. I was like, this is amazing. So
yeah, you hit it really good.
Yeah, nice.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely
really nice gig coming out of school.
Yeah, it was. I learned a lot. I have to say I learned a lot in a very short amount of time, but it was great, man. I still talk to a lot of those guys, and they're all over the world now doing multiple, big things, but it was a great way. So yeah, you're right. Music definitely kind of gave me my launching pad into the design career part of it. So.
I just want to say this is slightly indirectly Frederick. So he wasn't a musician himself. I don't think this counts.
98%.
96, 97-ish. So I'm in that ish.
97-ish. All right. Fair enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. My first job out of school, I think I was making websites for realtors. So that is in no way as fun as what you got to do.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh, that's really cool. So what are you doing now? Let's advance a little bit. Let's go through the time. Like what are you doing now? You're
right.
The future. So we took the DeLorean and now you are a digital art director. What does that mean? How's that?
So it's basically, I work for a local advertising agency. You know, you have really big clients. I don't know if you guys are cool with name dropping or whatever, but
It's up to you.
Boom.
yeah, I work with FKQ Advertising Agency here in Clearwater. You know, we have great brands that we work with: Hertz Rental Car, you know, McDonald's. We work with USF and Transition Lenses. So me specifically as a digital art director, I kind of help facilitate the client interaction in between design, technology, and coming up with websites, digital banner ad displays, and really kind of taking their ideas and giving it some kind of form. So, you know, it's really kind of helping them facilitate that stuff and get their product from concept to reality to an actual solution that's gaining them real revenue. So, and they've had a lot of success with it, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of that.
I just want to, I'm going to say it. I know it's kind of weird, but you're digital art director. It's like destiny. Like,
oh yeah, dude,
you were born to do this.
It comes up in every first client meeting. I actually like
I had to say it.
I'm saying, you know, go ahead and get it out of the way now. You know, if I'm doing like a talk to a school or a career day or something, I'm like, yep, art the artist, get it out of the way. Everybody laughs at it, from like Russian investors who are worth millions to, you know, little elementary school kids like, oh, ha ha ha.
Now, is your middle name Director?
No, I wish it was.
You got to change it to that.
Right?
That's awesome. Yeah, Brian always gets the same thing where people confuse him with Tom Selleck. But yeah, so it's I don't know. I mean, that's your thing. I don't know. So yeah, but it's cool that agency life, because within an agency you get that close communication with the client, and you really get to reach out and be that that bridge in between technical design and their expectations. And it's a lot of management. You're your own PM,
right?
Within that role, and that's always so much fun. It comes with a lot of stress, but
for sure,
it's a lot of fun. It's a very demanding kind of position.
For sure. Yeah, you know, we're thrilled to work with a bunch of different like account managers or, you know, project leads, so to speak. So, you know, it's really a collaborative effort in that regard. So it's like working with the client directly as well as the project managers to kind of facilitate both the day-to-day and the bigger thinking, and really kind of keeping what we do on brand and on track for the larger campaign. So, and yeah, like you said, it's a hard job for sure.
I'd imagine that it's a lot of, what kind of bait do I put on this pole that I could cast out?
Right.
I'm just using this analogy in no way relevant to anything, but fishing just popped in my head. But you cast out this line, and then you're hooking them in, and you have to not only align with those decision makers, but it's also a lot of, you know, it's usually getting to the influencers first that ultimately get to the decision makers and work with that to get that alignment, and then thus results.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's kind of like teasing the audience. It's the same way with, you know, fishing for mahi or kingfish. You know, you want to put the bait out there and you want it to look great. So you want to have, you know, the freshest ideas, and you want to put it in a prime location. So we do the same thing with advertising. You know, we strategically target different audiences and different sectors, and we put the tailored messaging for that specific person, so they will bite, so they will take the bait and actually purchase a product or use a service.
So get me hungry.
Then you saute it a little bit in butter, a little garlic,
and everybody celebrates. You know, so yeah, no, there's a lot of correlation between that and fishing, and the prep work is just as daunting for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not only knowing what you do and knowing the technology, or knowing the right kind of, having the right kind of skills, but it's also, you know, what people don't think about when they first get into the industry is there's a lot of design by committee. You know, you have to work with these people. You're putting up these, you know, Post-its on the board, and everybody's going, and you try to design what's the old adage when you design a horse but you get a camel. Like and like it's a lot of that, and that's what happens a lot of the times. And you'll be happy once you get something that you know is an in between that makes everybody happy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's the same thing we use. You know, we try to work collaborative. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Exactly.
We like to collaborate.
that word.
Yes, that word. We like to collaborate with people and really kind of hone in on what the project's supposed to do, who it's supposed to target, and then what's the best way to serve those people's, you know, with their actual problem and the solution. So, you know, I think that's great. And same with fishing, you know, you can have a boat and just go out in the bay and think you're gonna catch a grouper, but unless you actually know where to go, what bait to do, you know, use, and actually how to catch that fish in that particular setting, then your chances of success are really, really slim.
Yeah, instead you get a great white.
Exactly. Or nothing, which happens to most people, and they spend a bunch of money and waste a lot of time and gas.
I am a horrible fisherman. I have caught a shoe, a rock, and a fish, which I would like to say that I did this on purpose, but I caught the fish by the top fin.
Wow.
Which I'm just gonna say I did it on purpose. It's really really impressive.
What kind of fish was it? You know,
It was, I have no idea. A little
Goldfish.
Goldfish. a little bait
Yeah,
fish.
He had a bag of goldfish and he put it in the water and he's like, "Look what I got, guys!"
Nice.
Fisherman. What?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of to reiterate. It's not just about knowing the technology or having the skills, but it's also those skills of being able to navigate the waters of that client relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's communication. It's all about communication.
Yeah, that's a giant skill within itself.
For sure. And I don't think it's stressed enough, you know. It really isn't.
Communication. I'll say it again. Communication.
Brian's stressing it. I hope that's enough.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
You know, I don't think it would behoove us if we didn't talk a little bit about Apple Week.
Oh yeah.
Apple Week.
Apple Week. I love apples. But this particular Apple Week, we're talking about
apple pie, apple crisp.
Which kind of apples to use? But speaking of that, there's a lot of different changes, and there's a lot of different changes within the patterns. And I know Brian has some strong opinions on this, and I want to get to his strong opinions about the iPhone X.
I do.
Brian pre-ordered his. Good.
It's not an X. It's iPhone 10.
I was gonna say baller.
I call it X. I'll call it whatever I want.
Right.
You probably called it OS X too, didn't you?
I do. Yeah, I still do.
Well, it's Mac OS now. They
that's right.
Changing things around. Okay. Well, let's kind of go over what was released. And it's kind of irrelevant for in the design community. A new Apple Watch. 3 different iPhones, iPhone 8 that's smaller, an iPhone 8 Plus, and the iPhone 10, which one I have a problem with. I would like to complain briefly about the watch only having a day battery life still. It's I just don't understand what, like, my thought, and I was telling this to a friend of mine, is why can't they just put the battery in the band? Like, sell a band that can pop on, that'll charge it, and you can pop off the band, charge the band, put a different band on that's powered, and just keep going. That way you could, because to me as an Apple Watch, and if I own a Fitbit too, the reason I have them is to track my health, my activity, to constantly have it on, and having it off for like 3 hours means that for 3 hours I'm not tracking my steps. I'm not, my heart rate. I usually plug it in at night so it doesn't track my sleep, which is one thing I want to do. So
it's nice to do that.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's not a necessary by any means, but it's what I want. And as the consumer and the one that wants to buy it, I feel like they're not really targeting the things that I care about.
Do you mind if I interject? Because I think I have one of the big reasons why, and I'm not going to say that it's a good reason. I'm going to kind of be indifferent on this. I don't have an opinion, but maybe you guys do. Is I think that it's the reason they don't do any kind of things like a charger within a band is because of the business opportunity to have all these different bands. I think that's a big advantage to having that iWatch, is to be able to branch out to all these different companies and say, you know, design what you want. And it's a great partnership, and they're making a new opportunity within the community, in the community, to be able to sell all this merchandise.
Yeah, but see, they could keep the battery in the main watch body, but just have the bands as well that you can buy, and that allows you to, you know, have longer battery life and being able to swap it out and everything. Maybe the powered bands just like charge the internal battery. I don't know. It's just a complaint of mine because, you know, one day is ridiculous. I don't know. But the main big thing is the iPhone 10. I don't know. I personally think that they're fragmenting like the whole ecosystem. They're removing the home button for the edge-to-edge display is stupid when you have a notch at the top, which completely eliminates the point of it. And regarding the fragmentation thing, what people may not realize, but the interaction model from, you know, your current iPhone and the iPhone 8 is completely different on the iPhone 10. Like on your current phone now, you swipe up from the bottom to get to your control center to be able to, you know, turn off your Wi-Fi and all that other stuff. And on the iPhone 10, I think you swipe down from the right-hand side. So it's a completely different interaction model. And then in order to get to the home page, you swipe up from the bottom, and there's this persistent bar which is in the way of, I mean, think of all the apps you use. Think of like Facebook Messenger or anything. What is on the bottom? There's an input field, there's all these buttons, and there's this thing that's going to be in the way. And then the notch at the top, there's all sorts of design rules where you can't try and hide it even. You can't like blend your interface design to work with the notch or anything like that. It's like Apple was like, who cares?
Well, it's a difficult decision, I'm sure, on their end, because I mean, those are things that are necessary to have there. Maybe not the facial recognition, but the camera features are necessary. What are you going to do? Do you put it behind the screen and just have it not to where it's displayed?
You don't need the screen to go all the way to the top. It's not the notch is like a sliver at the top. They could have just had the screen stop there. I mean, but that's like a minor thing compared to like the interaction changes. Like I feel if they're going to do that in the iPhone 10, then they need to do that in all iPhones. They need to have you swipe from the top right, gives you notification. You swipe from the top left, gives you what is it? It's your not notification, control panel top right, notifications top left.
That's an interesting point, Brian. Like, what do you think that, and on you Art as well, you guys, I'll ask you this: why do you think they went for that kind of divot rather than just going all the way across? What do you think the logic is of that?
Insanity. I mean, I don't see a logic. I can't
behind that.
I definitely don't understand it either, but my biggest thing is usability. So, you know, us being designers and developers, we strive to make everything mobile, and we strive to make it easy to use. And having that notch there and having that, you know, glass to glass or that full width screen, it's going to be different and difficult for people to actually try and use it, whether they're used to hitting the home button on an iPad or your iPhone 8, so to speak, or 6 or whatever, and then getting the iPhone 10, and it's totally different. So that usability, you know, that's definitely going to throw people for a loop. And I can't wait for Apple to get that kind of feedback, because I'm sure, like yourselves, they already are hearing that as a big red flag. Yeah,
I mean, to me, the Face ID thing is gimmicky, but there's a guy on YouTube, we'll link to it in the show description, Snazzy Labs. I don't know if either one of you have ever watched him, but he's a pretty good YouTuber. He does reviews and interesting Mac mod things. And then he talked about the iPhone 10. He was like, there's no reason that they couldn't have made that little bar at the bottom when you force touch it or push down on it, that it acts as going to the home. They didn't need to change the swipe up notification. They could have kept it exactly as the other phones and just had that one little area be a touch. But I mean, it still interferes with a lot of UI elements. So they could have even made like that little very sliver at the bottom be something that is a persistent UI element that kind of pushes up. That way it won't interfere with all the dozens of chat apps and tons of other apps. And like the other issue with the notch is that a lot of designers and developers are seeing it. When you rotate the screen around, the UI elements actually go behind the notch. So they have to do all sorts of like, just for the iPhone 10, for the iPhone 10, they have to modify it to push it out so that list elements and things like that don't go behind the notch. And that goes back to the fragmentation. It's like Apple didn't think about like, hey, we have two different phone designs and two different people are going to have to design their app for both the iPhone 10
it seems like an obvious thing, and I mean maybe it's a hindsight is 2020 or whatnot, but I mean that seems like a horrible problem that they're presenting. But I gotta also play devil's advocate when
don't do it
when we talk about these things. No, I'm very good at devil stuff. I got the Ouija board out. I'm all set. I gotta play devil's advocate here. There had to be some kind of, I hope to God, there had to be some kind of group that got together that, you know, it's Apple. It's not like there was one guy making all the calls on this going, nope, we're just doing that. Like there had to be a group of people that got together and said, these are scenarios. This is what people are going to bitch at. This is obviously wrong. This is obviously right. And there has to be some kind of logic to that. Do we all believe that's not the case? And
I don't. I don't. My theory with the design is they went into panic mode. I would bet money that they were trying to get the fingerprint, like just as the rumors say, they're trying to get the fingerprint sensor behind the glass, and they wanted it behind the glass in the bottom, and they weren't able to do it. So they're suddenly like, oh crap, what are we gonna do now? So they basically we're like, it's Face ID, and you know this is what we're doing. And because to completely switch a model of interaction like that on the consumers doesn't make any sense. So they had to like, okay, we'll just swipe up and we'll have this little thing at the bottom and they'll swipe from here. Okay, okay, we solved it. I mean,
and they invested so much time into that.
And I would bet the next iPhone 10 point whatever the heck they decided to call it, which by the way, where's iPhone 9?
I have an iPhone 9 on order. I ordered it off of Prince in China for $200 cash. It's going to be here within 7 to 10 weeks. I'm really looking forward to it.
I just find it very hypocritical that everyone was like, where's Windows 9? But when Apple releases iPhone 10, everyone's like, oh my God, they're so smart. Come on. Like,
that's the Apple fanboy culture.
I mean,
Apple can do no wrong.
Hey, I have an iPad. I have an iPad Pro. I have a MacBook. I have a watch. But come on, people. Like,
and what about some of these other companies that took that sensor to a different level, that did it in the back? I believe there's a few Samsungs that have it where it naturally, when you hold the hand, your phone, you hold it and you could put the finger.
It's not natural. No, Samsung actually in the S8, there was a big hubbub about it because they put the sensor immediately next to the camera lens. So people were constantly like putting their finger on the camera lens instead of on the fingerprint. So they're like putting their fingerprint on it. And so, they were, the theory with them too, is they were also trying to get the fingerprint sensor behind the glass.
Yeah, I can see it behind the glass. But what about this? They also try to put a double down on it by communicating that this is way more, this facial recognition is way more secure. What did they say? 1 in a million. Yeah, 1 in a million, where the fingerprint was 1 in 50,000.
I mean,
is that a marketing gag, or
I don't care.
Of course.
I honestly don't care because it's completely changing. I mean, it's one thing to change for to move on to better, and the 1 in a million is better, but you're losing a lot of usability by changing the way they did without keeping a similar pattern that people have been using since like the first iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but I mean,
and the notch.
Let's go back to
He can't get off the notch.
The devil's advocate is the usability of that more important than the security?
But we're debating something that we haven't even seen how well it works. I mean,
Of course.
Even the initial Touch ID had issues. People were having problems getting working. It took a while to get that out. And to me, having literally the only method I can't be like, oh, Face ID isn't working that well for me, I'll just use Touch ID. And once software updates come, maybe I'll start using it more. Plus the fact that if I'm driving in my car, one thing that they talked about is Face ID. You can't just hold it. You can't just, I'm holding my phone up to my face, by the way. You can't just hold it to your face and work. You have to look at it. You have to show that it
you have to make eye contact?
Which means if I want to hand you my phone and be like, I'm driving the car and I want you to do something on my phone, I have to look at my phone long enough for Face ID to do it and then hand it to you. And that's instead of just putting my thumbprint on the button. I mean,
as you hand it to somebody.
Yeah.
And what about the unlocking it manually? Is that still a feature?
You can still do that, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So they give you an out at least.
But it's like a 6-pin combination thing that you've done in. Yeah. I'm driving. 1 second, guys.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, let me remind you that no one should be driving and looking at their phone.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, I'm talking about handing my phone to someone for them to do something. Like you don't have your phone on you. I want you to look up a map to find directions to something. I mean, sure. I don't know.
I'm with Frederick on this. I know that they have a lot of features and functions, and just like with what we do, we obviously prioritize what's gonna take precedence. So it seems like they did put the security aspect higher than usability,
which isn't the way to go.
Right? No. Definitely not.
I'm gonna put I'm gonna drill some holes into my MacBook. I'm gonna have 4 holes and put combination locks in each of them. I know it's gonna be longer to open my laptop.
Right.
But it will be more secure, guys.
Right.
Well, is it also one of those things to where? Let me ask you this: was it a time issue? Was it about we need to get this to market for Q4 sales? Was that their main goal? I bet it
was.
What was it? I think so, because I'm sure there was a lot of pressure from stakeholders, decision makers, influencers, what have you, that hey, we need to have something Q4 that we could sell. I need to put this in stockings and make some money.
Right. Yeah, Christmas is gonna be big for them, regardless of what they put out. So yeah.
That Apple Watch is going into a lot of people's stockings this year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't think Jobs would have let this release as it is. Honestly, I think that the differences in at least it may have been released the way it is, but they would have addressed the vast differences in usability. They wouldn't have had it be a different interaction model to get the notifications and control center. And there's no excuse for that. They could fix that in a software update. But that right there is the one thing that is I'm fine. Okay, don't have Touch ID. Maybe you guys can do it. The notch is still stupid, but even the notch they could fix with a software update by having a persistent UI element that's there. If you rotate the screen, it automatically has something there. So there's ways they could fix all these issues. And I don't understand why they didn't before launching it, because I don't know. I just expect more of Apple is my thing. I expect them to address
the whole notch could have been just done with a have that top part be a dedicated area for some kind of notifications or whatnot, and that's not actually part of the regular interface.
Right. But the thing is, you can't do anything in the area. Okay, you rotate your screen and you have that notch. You can push things out. But what if you want to have buttons that live in the specific notch area? That's a nice place to put them. Maybe you can't do that. In the design guidelines, they won't let you do things like that.
Yep.
Which is stupid. Anyway, I think I'll get off my soapbox. I know Frederick likes it. He's like, yeah, keep going.
I want more notches.
Yeah.
I want the whole phone to be a notch, so it looks like that X.
There you go.
on
I mean,
every side.
I'm already like not dreading the fact, but thinking about, okay, well, now we're gonna have to kind of recode some emails, template designs, and stuff like that to then account for the notch in only Apple's, you know, X version of the iPhone, and that's gonna be.
I'm kind of curious. I haven't seen many videos. I'm kind of curious what the built-in apps look like when you rotate the screen. If they've adapted their own apps to work with a notch. Like imagine like Notes when you rotate it,
right?
You have like this, the sidebar. And like, is it? Someone did a funny thing where they're like, I fixed the issue with the notch, and what they did, it scrolls, it like moves around the notch.
Oh, really? That's cool.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Yeah.
They moved it.
I'm definitely not even remote. I'm trying to figure out which phone to get, but I'm not even remotely interested in the X because of how
the price point.
Right. That's what I was gonna say.
No, because it's $200 more. That's it. Than getting the 256 gigabyte iPhone 8 Plus. So $200 difference is it's $200 more. It's not chump change by any means, but it's not enough to make me like, I would go $200 more if it was worth it. But I honestly feel like it's not worth it. I would actually recommend to everyone, don't get the iPhone 10. And one, it's first generation.
Right.
Unless you're a developer, there's no point in getting it because like all these issues with the software differences, I think a lot of things will be worked out. I wouldn't get it. I would recommend it to no one. If anyone asked me, I'd be like, no, get the 8.
Even the price point of, even if it was worth it, it starts to fall out of people's range of affordability. Yeah. It also falls out of people's range of, this isn't what I expected. Like if it came with something that maybe was a little bit, I don't know, more interesting, it might be something to where it has more mass appeal. I think what Apple's doing is playing a little bit of catch up. Like they're looking at the things like the
wireless charging,
the what is it, the Note 8, with the edge to edge. This should have been the iPhone that we got last year.
Right.
I just don't get the edge-to-edge thing. It doesn't appeal that much to me. I mean, I like having more screen. I get that and everything, but I don't know. It's not the big deal to me. I mean,
it's not a big deal because it isn't a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not sure what I need to upgrade because I'm on a little 16 gigabyte phone, which I don't know why Apple kept that for so long. And I have to keep deleting apps if I want to take pictures, and it's just very frustrating.
Well, also, to go back to what you said about the Apple Watch with battery life, why do we have to keep making these things so much thinner? If we're pretty happy with how thin the current phone is, let's make it a little bit thicker and use that area all for a battery. And make it last more than one day.
Well, I mean, look back to the older, pre-smartphone, kind of actually early smartphone era. There were some early smartphones that still had 20-day battery life. I mean, there's no
Nokia Sidekick. That thing lasted forever.
There's no, I don't know. I think it's all about. I mean, I don't even understand how it's maybe selling more battery chargers, battery packs. I mean. I don't know. I feel
money. It's all money.
Yeah.
Sure. It's all
and heck, even the fast charge, for instance, we're talking about the Samsung, the S8. They give you the you have to use their power pack to get the fast charge, but Apple does not. You have to pay another $50 to have fast charge for the Apple phone.
And that's why they have $1 trillion in cash.
Okay.
What is that air charge technology that they're coming out with?
It's wireless. It's QI, however you say it, and it's a standard. And what's funny is that I already see people are like, "Oh, Apple's innovated in the scene with that." No, that's a standard that's been around forever. It's mind-boggling the Apple fanboys, and I'm an Apple fanboy. I love Apple,
as we all are.
But it's like a blind eye, and I don't understand it.
If they came out with some kind of thing to where it was more, I could charge my phone via Wi-Fi, Like it could
Right.
take that signal. That would be something interesting. That would be like, oh, okay, applause, Apple. But like that's not what we got. We got the same old, you know how you put your blah 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 down on stuff.
But it's good. But it's good because it's a standard, and there's like literally hundreds of chargers that are already out there. That maybe even thousands. I mean, some Starbucks have place you can put it on.
Mm-hmm.
So the tech that they're using is something that people can just immediately use in the existing market. So at least they did that right. I mean, I think
those chargers are like
8 is great.
$90.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and I do think it's pretty cool that they added a wireless charging for the AirPods, and you can actually they'll have a device where you can lay your watch down, the AirPods down, and the phone.
Is anybody going to make a phone call with their watch? Is that a thing?
That's what I was going to ask you, Brian. I'm interested. Yeah. I'm interested to see if you're thinking about the Series 3. Wow.
I have a Series 0, so I'm thinking about it. I think I'll go into the store when it's released and see because the main thing that bothers me is the performance. But heck, Fitbit just released what is it? What was it, Frederick?
Ion, something like that.
Ionic, I think.
Ionic, possibly. Who knows?
But I mean, that has 4-day battery life.
Wow.
You can control your music, color screen, all the fitness activity tracking stuff that you could ask for. They're going to have an app store that's piggybacking off of Pebbles tech. So I don't.
Can you make a phone call?
But why? I mean, it's cool in the whole Dick Tracy sense for anyone who remembers Dick Tracy who's listening.
Right.
If you don't know who it is, go watch the old movie. But I mean,
don't watch the old movie. It's stupid.
What? No, it's fun.
No, it's stupid.
Gadget. How about that?
But I don't know. I think I don't know. I think it's something that I could see. I mean, they talked about people running and leaving their phone at home, and I could see an advantage to that. You can have your music on your watch. You go for a run, and if you get a call, you can, answer it while you're running and not have your phone with you. I could see that there's edge cases where it would be nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how many of those are there?
I mean, I run. Honestly, so I would definitely love to leave my.
Yes. We talk about running. I get that too. I run, but I mean, how many other cases can we even think about in this moment?
Well, I mean, I leave my phone at my desk a lot too. I mean, I could see. I go for a walk at work. I go out to go get maybe I leave my phone at work. It does happen occasionally, and I have my watch on me. I can. I mean, there's uses for it, and I like how I like how they made it so it's the same number. It's not this separate plan that you get. It just uses your existing cell number.
Sure.
So it's piggybacking off of. But one thing they didn't talk about, which I don't understand how that's working, is how's the data? How is that working? Because is it connected to your SIM? Is it a kind of a SIM clone of your phone?
You probably just add another device, in the same way where you add an iPad to your account for AT&T.
But it's not. No, it's not.
It's not? Tell me.
As far as everything I've read, and that's not a separate charge or anything. You're not paying additional for it. It's tied directly.
That is what I'm saying. It's not just like the same thing with your iPad. I can add iPads to my account, and it's using the same account. It's not
okay.
The same LTE network. Yeah, it's still assigned to your number. Yeah,
which is great. That's what I would expect it to do. So yeah, there might be some cases for that that arise. There might be cases to where we can't even imagine yet.
Yeah. Dick Tracy. It's all about the Dick Tracy.
I could become a private eye and use this.
Yes, you could. I mean, I like all the stuff that's in it. I think actually of all their new tech that's out now, I actually think their computers now kind of suck. They're not really catering to the power users like they used to.
What about the Pro?
They had the Pro in there.
Yeah, it's not that great. I mean, if you compare HP just released a new desktop, the Z, which has, I don't know the exact number, but I wanted to say it had 56 cores. I It had like a ridiculous amount of RAM, like a ridiculous hard drive, and Apple has nothing that can like touch that, like even remotely. Even their new space gray, fancy looking thing still can't touch it. Yeah, so the watch is probably the most, to me, I think the most innovative tech lately.
I really, really, really wanted a smaller Apple Pen for that phone.
Yeah, there was a patent that they caught that was a smaller pen. So, I mean, I would bet the next phone will have that.
Yeah, that would be a big selling point to me because I've wanted that for a long time. I don't want to go out and buy an iPad. I mean, I would like to go out and buy an iPad, but I would like to be able to have that on my phone. Like that would be great.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I want to on the watch. I want to be able to like lift up my wrists. I just doodle on the watch.
You like to doodle on the watch, but that's a different conversation altogether.
Series 4.
Yeah, the Series 4.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to surprisingly time, man. It's flying by. We're getting to the closing part of the show, and Brian has some questions for us.
I'm sorry, Frederick. I went on a rant, and it took the whole show.
It's all right. We all got
to apologize to our audience that I ranted about Apple for like 3 hours. This is hour 3.
It was appropriate. It was within the time to talk about it. So it's
for sure.
Yeah. So my question for you, Art, is it's kind of more of a kind of like spotlight something, of something that you've come across. Can it be anything from a new barbecue sauce? It could be you found a new Kit Kat candy bar that you're crazy about. Could be tech related. Could be whatever. And I'm going to go first. Frederick's going to go, and then you. So you have time if you want to frantically Google if you need to.
No, I got something.
Okay. So mine, I keep having new gadgets, but this is actually I got for the storm that was coming. It's an Anchor battery pack. And it's nice because
I got the same one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to joke, but I got the exact same one before the storm.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. I mean I could charge my phone. I can charge my phone for up to about 7 days, like to full. Plus I have. By the way, I was to the audio audience in the video. I was holding up the battery pack, and I have on my phone. I have the what do they call this? The bump. What's the nickname for it? Either one of you know the weird bump case. It's basically I'm holding up my iPhone. And it's a battery pack that goes in the back of the iPhone 6 and 6S and 7 have them. I don't know if the 8 will have it, but that gives me about 2 days, and then with the battery pack, another. It's pretty good.
7 days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good buy because you can charge your iPad on it. You can even get adapters and charge your laptop a little bit if you need to. So it's like 20,000. Was it milliamps or something like that? I can't remember, but comes with a cool case too. So that's
nice.
Cool.
How much is it?
Frederick, do you remember?
I think it was $50.
Yeah, I think it was around that.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is really great.
Well worth it.
Yeah, and Anchor is a great company. So
nice.
So Frederick.
Yeah, I've been looking at these new, speaking of Fitbit, I'm a runner, and I just ran today, and I'm always looking for some kind of a nice pair of headphones for running. I go through them like crazy. It's disposable at this point. But I found some really nice Bluetooth headphones from Fitbit. They're called the Fitbit Flyer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to all these things in the show notes, by the way. And the Fitbit Flyer, they're on pre-order. They're like $129.95. They're $130. That's they're awesome. They you can control the music with them. They fit in your ear. They're one of those things that don't fall out like your Apple AirPods. And I'm so excited to get those for running.
Now, do they work for without the Ionic? It can just work with your phone, no problems or anything like that?
Yeah, it's not solely for their technology. So you could just set them up and pair them just like with any Bluetooth technology to your phone.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I'm not sure when it's actually coming out, but like I said, it's on pre-order.
Nice.
So I'm getting that right when it comes out. So that's my thing. What do you got, Art?
So I'm sure it's not anything new, but back when we obviously had to up and evacuate and drive to Atlanta, Florida was notorious for not having any gas. So that became like a real big issue. So, you know, we're driving up US 19, trying to find gas. There's like, we probably passed 100 gas stations and only four in between here and Atlanta, South St. Pete to Atlanta, had actual gas. So I guess we're talking to my in-law, and she told us about this Gas Buddy app, which I never even heard of, or the actual website. And I guess people were putting on the actual app which stations had gas, which ones actually had a truck at the gas station waiting. And I'm telling you, that was the only way we made it to and coming back from Atlanta during Irma, because I mean, gas was such a big thing, and having that, you know, app, we can see, okay, well, there's gas at this one gas station. It's 30 miles away. Can we make it? Yes. There's a long line at it, but there's truck there. And that app really actually saved us. And, you know, there were hundreds of cars on 75 that ran out of gas, you know, that might not have had that app. So
you actually saw them on your commute, like just park like off the side of the road, like tons of them?
It was cars, big SUVs with stuff on the roof racks, just on the side of the road, man, empty, you know, where people are either like leaving them or already abandoned them, both coming or running away from Irma, as well as coming back on like Tuesday. There were cars stranded. You know, it was still a really big issue.
And I think, to add to your point, it's important for people to not just think about these things like the day of or the week of, download Gas Buddy now. If you live in Florida, have that on your phone. Know where it is on your phone. Open it up and take a look at it.
Know how to use
two other storms out there, they can come in and do what they do. Again soon. Who knows? Climate change isn't real.
That was a big deal. So yeah, Gas Buddy app. It's been around, you know, and it was obviously created to find cheaper gas prices. But in this case, where they were rationing gas, they had people only paying for, you know, cash only, or you can only buy $30 of gas because they had to ration it out. Yeah, it was nuts, man. You know, it was a tough go for sure. But you know, we got through it, and you know, we will prevail. You know, Florida strong.
Yeah, and that's not fun when you have a small child either.
No. Small child.
Frederick, you're not a small child, Frederick.
Some people would think so, Brian.
It was funny, man. You know, we saw everybody was sleeping in their cars at McDonald's and gas stations and rest areas. It was nuts, man. But I'm glad we got through it for sure.
Yeah, that was. Well, hey, Art, I have two last questions for you. And you know, I think I'm gonna. I probably already know the answer to this one, and it's a question I got from User Defenders from Jason Ogle, and I really like this question, and I love to ask it to people. And it's, if you weren't doing what you do now, and you couldn't use a computer, what would you be doing for your full-time job? Predictable answer:
fishing captain, for sure. Surprise, big surprise. You know, if the sailfish on the wall didn't give that away.
No, not at all. You and your yacht. Couldn't tell.
Right? Yeah, no, definitely fishing captain, man. There's something about the salt life, the water, the air, the crazy, you know, speed that these fish swim at, you know, whether it's a kingfish that seems like they're running 40, 50 miles an hour, or it's a 300-pound bull shark that's just ripping you to shreds for an hour and a half. You know, that'll definitely be my job for sure.
Let me ask you a question. Are you more about the warm weather, or would you be interested in going to someplace like the upper east, or west, northwest? Like, are you into like a Seattle or a Portland kind of thing, or is it more about the warm weather?
No, definitely. I'm a tropical guy, man. You know, even in the Carolinas, it got pretty cold. So
what's wrong with you?
Right?
It's so hot here.
No, man. Trust me. I can deal with the heat. I can always jump in the pool or jump in the water if we're offshore. The pristine blue, clear water definitely cool me off, you know, a little bit. But when I go to like Connecticut to visit my in-laws, you know, it's freezing up there in the winter. It's like -degrees, and I can't deal with that, dude.
That's why you wear a jacket.
No.
What is this jacket that you're talking about?
And you also can't go fishing.
Jacket? What?
So you can't go fishing when it's like -5 out, you know?
Sure you can. Have you thought
Ice
about
fishing.
going ice fishing? I
No,
think it'd be
not
a cool experience, I think. No? You don't want to just try it just to say, hey, I went ice fishing.
nope.
Not that.
It's funny. I'm
That
built
just
for the
gives you
cold
some
weather.
context. If that just tells you how much I hate the cold. 'Cause I love
I
fishing.
always say that it's that you could always put on a jacket. You can't put on a pool because
Right.
again, I love the cold, but yeah,
I
it's
get
we all like certain things.
And I say the same thing, I can always put on a jacket, but I can always take a shirt off, or at least take something off to where I can get a little cooler, go stand in the shade. But and then you building a fire and it's still -5 out and blowing. Like, no, it's
That's
see,
so nice.
that sounds great. I would love that.
Yeah.
Nice fire.
Yes,
Nice.
But you can't even start your car because it's like the battery's frozen. And
Why would I want to
Staying
start
home.
my
Perfect.
car? Jeez.
Art, my last question to you is this, and it's one of those kind of questions that you get a little bit more introspective, uncomfortable. Yeah, you get to know people a little bit better. When you pass away and you see your version of heaven, whatever that may be, you open your eyes. What do you see?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Shocking. It's definitely going to have to be at the beach with my family there, or at least some kind of memory of my family, or just like that perfect day at Anna Maria or out at Fort DeSoto with my little girl running around and, my wife, just kind of reading the book and relaxing, and just the waves slowly crashing. Like, that's my zen for sure. So I would like to think that would be what that heaven-esque would be. But yeah, that'd definitely be my answer. Similar to fishing, but
so hell would be Antarctica.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It would be Antarctica with a big old jacket.
It'd be like clear ice, and you could see the fish under there, but there was no way you could get to them.
Exactly. Pure torture in every form of the reason.
Nice. I like that.
That's awesome.
By the way, there's a really good show. If speaking of this subject, if you guys want to check it out, I just finished the series. It's called The Good Place. It's on Netflix. Really funny.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, we watched that on Hulu too. That was a good show. Interesting plot twist at the end of the season.
Yeah. Let's not give that away. But
no. My wife called it.
You'll get it. Oh, she did?
She called it, and I was like, no way. And then when they dropped the bomb, I was so mad because I hate when she wins. But I was mad.
Yeah, I didn't get it. And then, when they dropped that, I was like, oh, that was actually smart. I can't believe I didn't figure that out.
It was, yeah. So that's awesome.
Well, Art, we're closing up now. I was wondering if we could give you the floor, if you got any kind
words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom for our guests, any kind of closing comments you'd like to tell everybody?
You guys obviously have like a big tech audience. So, when we do development, try and develop or build stuff for the users and not yourself. A lot of people kind of go into projects and exactly, they're trying to do this, something to kind of tout their own skill or, accentuate their newest technology, but they really lack or forget about their users and how they're actually going to use the product. So again, Apple in this case, but in the day-to-day marketing and web design, web development, we really have to kind of think about the end user and how they're going to use their product.
Well said. Yeah, that's kind of a important part of it, right?
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people don't consider that. It's more about well, I want to do this, and there was my camera, and this is our agenda.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great.
And what my words of wisdom, I would like people to go to iTunes, open it up, and leave a review, a good review, at least 5 stars.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. You heard it from that Brian guy. Do what he says.
Well, I want to thank you guys, man. Really appreciate this opportunity. It's a big help for me, and I kind of want to get a lot more of a awareness out in the community and kind of do a lot more of these things. And I'm a big fan of your show, so I appreciate you guys taking the time out to interview little old me.
Oh, dude, no, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with us. That's what we do, and we love to talk to people that love what they do and
do web good.
Nice. Love that. Love that.
Nice. All right, well, thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and we'll see you soon.